Former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich is with us. So first they tried the recount, then they tried the Russians hacked into it until we found out there's no new information, no new evidence. The FBI and the National Director of Intelligence totally disagree with the politicized CIA analysis and administration analysis. Then we learned that, in fact, Obama was briefed on Russia's DNC hack, but he didn't do anything about it, nor did he do anything for 10 years about WikiLeaks. And now we just keep hearing that all the electors are being intimidated into not voting for Donald Trump, which they are obligated to do. What's your reaction?
Well, I think this is a good taste of what the next 8 years are going to be like.
Yeah, pretty much.
The left's not going to give up. They're going to fight very hard to do everything they can to either beat Trump, to weaken the administration, to isolate it, to slow down change. I mean, we're talking here about the end of their world. Donald Trump is the real deal. He is the first decisive change since 1932. Much bigger, much deeper than Ronald Reagan. And the left knows it, and they're facing the end of their way of life.
What's interesting is you've lived through this, and I assume I remember you wrote a book years ago called Lessons Learned the Hard Way after you left being Speaker of the House. I actually think it was one of your more reflective, thoughtful books, a personal journey, if you will. So I would think that you could probably transfer some of those lessons to Trump and warn him what's about to happen and how they will try to delegitimize him.
That's right. And I think, in fact, I'm on the way up now to see the Trump folks. I'm talking to you from the National Airport in Washington. The fact is, we should understand this is life and death if you're on the left. So they're not going to give in. This is not a good government election for the legal women voters. It's not the PTA meeting. This is power over the most powerful nation in the world. Trump is further scaring them because of the quality of the cabinet he's appointing. I mean, he is bringing in people that nobody thought you could bring in. And it is going to be such a powerhouse of a cabinet, and they're all going to be winners, and they're all going to have an attitude of, let's go get this job done. And Washington hasn't seen anything like this in my lifetime. It is going to be absolutely amazing.
You see, I agree with you. So you gave a speech, and that's really one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on today at the Heritage Foundation, describing what you call Trumpism.
Yeah, I feel yesterday morning it's available both at Gingrich Productions and at Heritage if people want to look at it. We had over 75,000 people watch it yesterday at Gingrich Productions. It was also live on C-SPAN. And I'm trying to describe the concept that this is about more than just Donald J. Trump. This is a movement. It's a way of thinking. It's an approach. It has very profound impact. In fact, I gave a speech this morning at the National Defense University on the strategic implications of Trumpism in rethinking national security and how big a change it is. It's a remarkable moment. To just take, for example, the choice of General Mattis to be Secretary of Defense. This will require a waiver for a general officer to serve as Secretary of Defense, which has only been given one other time in 1950 for George Catlin Marshall and during the Korean War. And yet Trump's immediate reaction is, well, of course we can get this done. And everybody, Democrats and Republicans alike, promptly said, Mattis is such a great guy, of course he's going to get a waiver. Well, that's so different than the world of Washington, which 6 weeks ago would have said, obviously you can't consider him because of this federal law. But Trump's attitude is, look, if the law's stupid, change it. And it's really a cool approach.
Well, I've got to imagine, and look at, for example, if we are to break down the Obama presidency in the last 8 years and the fact that he used executive orders and presidential fiat to bypass Congress and separation of powers and co-equal branches of government, I would imagine, and this is my breakdown, 75 to 80% of Obama's agenda could be wiped away with the stroke of a pen, probably in the first few hours of a Trump administration. Then I would imagine, as we have now heard, that Obamacare being repealed and replaced, that's going to be wiped out. So now we're at about 90%. And really, the only evidence that Barack Obama was in the White House for the last 8 years remaining will be that he accumulated more debt than all 43 presidents before him combined and his judicial appointments. Short of what else exists?
Well, there's going to be a very nice portrait.
Okay, so a portrait.
Every president gets a portrait. So somewhere in the White House, there'll be a really nice portrait.
And if you're Barack Obama, now you're thinking everything I've done for 8 years is going to be wiped clean. It's like he never was there.
Guess what? He's going to be very bitter, very hostile, and he's going to go out and he's going to attack Donald Trump regularly. That's just a fact. And what we got to do is relax. So it's like dealing with the propaganda media. I went berserk the other morning because the pseudo-conservative who writes for the Washington Post wrote this column in which she said that this is a cabinet. This is a.
Who was it that wrote it?
I can't remember her name. I think
Jennifer Rubin. Yeah.
Jennifer Rubin. I'm trying to memorize her name, and it's hard because she's so stupid. But she fits what you've heard me talk before about this wonderful essay that people can Google called Intellectual Yet Idiots, or IYI.
Gingrich bashes idiots in the propaganda media.
That's right. And she's a perfect example of what Taleb's talking about. She's an intellectual yet an idiot. So she writes this thing and says, this is going to be a cabinet of, quote, ignoramuses, billionaires, and a couple generals. Now, first of all, the arrogance of a person whose entire career has been sitting at the Washington Post writing opinion columns, deciding she will render judgment. I mean, is she talking about our good friend Rick Perry, the new Secretary of Energy, who was the longest-serving governor in the history of Texas? Is she talking about the new ambassador to the United Nations, Governor Nikki Haley, who actually was an accountant, ran a small business, is governor of a state? Are these the kind of people that Jennifer Rubin is judging as ignoramuses? Is she talking about a world-class, literally world-class, pediatric neurosurgeon who had a movie made about his life called Gifted Hands? Is this what she thinks is an ignoramus? I mean, you're going to hear me in the next year take on the left-wing media harder than we ever took on Hillary Clinton, because I am sick of the arrogance and the stupidity, people who parade themselves forth as though they know something.
You know, it's funny because over at Red State, which was once a pretty good website run by our friend Eric Erickson and has been sold, I mean, I had this woman writing the other day that I'm a racist because I retweeted a picture of somebody rubbing their face in Cheetos, and apparently there was some word that I'd never even heard of before in the thing, and that's an alt-right term. And I'm like, I never heard of alt-right until this election cycle. Have you?
Well, first of all, what are they rubbing their face in Cheetos?
Yeah, to have an orange face like Trump.
That's a racist comment?
They had.
Wait.
Did you ever? No. Well, apparently the guy used the guy that had put the picture up and the video up had a word that she is claiming is an alt-right term, and then she tried to take the word, even though I was tweeting the video, and say this is evidence that Sean Hannity's adopted alt-right positions. Now, I never heard of alt-right before this election cycle.
I didn't either. I mean, maybe alt-right is our version of stupid left.
Yeah, I have no idea. I call it the alt-radical left now because I'm just playing on their stupid games.
I think I'm going to start talking about the stupid left. These are people who may have PhDs in tenure, but they're stupid.
You know, I will say this. Look, here's to me what I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it bears repeating. To me, this is simple. Originalists on the Supreme Court, repatriation, low taxes, 7 brackets to 3, 15% corporate rate, get rid of Obamacare, health savings accounts, open up all energy so we become energy independent, create jobs, have the security benefits, help our Western European friends, term limits, I still love that idea, and draining the corrupt swamp, education back to states, build the wall, and have a strong military and fix the VA. What's so hard about this?
Well, getting it done is going to be hard because the left is going to fight us every single inch of the way.
So we just...
But it's the right things to do. I'll tell you what my standard is. I wake up every morning, and I am so happy that Hillary Clinton is not going to be president, that there's almost nothing Donald J. Trump can do to make me irritated. I just think, compared to how miserable I'd feel right now if we were looking at the Clinton cabinet, can you imagine the gap? So we got to do this. We got to try to figure out who would she have picked and compare them to who he has picked. I mean, his cabinet is so superior.
You want to laugh?
Unbelievable.
All right, so this is how they're describing Donald Trump's picks in the liberal media. It was in Newsbusters today. Racially insensitive, hard line, radicals, ignoramuses, calamity to the poor, an environmental disaster. When Obama made his cabinet picks in '08, they were hailed as a diverse mosaic, an all-star team, superstar geniuses, full of brain power, a team of geniuses. I mean, it's so obvious that the media hasn't learned a thing being so wrong in this election.
Just take the example of Nikki Haley. Indian American, small businesswoman, becomes governor of South Carolina, now appointed to be the ambassador of the U.S. If she were a liberal Democrat, they would be swooning over her. She would get the cover of all the women's magazines, an example of American success. But because she's a Republican, they don't know what to do with her. They know they can't quite attack her. It's very hard to say she's a racist, and it's very hard to say she's a sexist. So they actually don't know anything to say about her.
All right, well, we're going to continue this discussion on TV tonight. I'm actually doing something I think you'll like. You talk about Trumpism, and I'm going to have you explain that tonight. And I'm going to lay out the history of why what Donald Trump's going to do on the economy worked for Kennedy and Reagan, and I hope you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, I do have a new book called Electing Trump, which is now...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's an e-book. It's an e-book on Amazon, and it's on my website, Hannity.com.
And it's just great fun. I look forward to tonight. I'm going to be on the set with you. I'm on the way to New York.
All right, we'll see you then. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.